We're at the Business Today Tech Today Congress here in Bangalore, and I'm joined by Mr. Anas Rahman Junaid. Thank you so much for joining. You're the founder and MD for Hurun India. How did that journey start for you?
So Hurun was founded about 11 years back with an objective of speaking about the story of India through the eyes of entrepreneurs. So I met the founder of Hurun Global after my studies in Oxford, and I found what he was doing. In terms of speaking about Asian stories, quite exciting. Then I kind of felt that India's decade is going to begin in 2012. So I quit my job in where I was working in London and came back to India and set up Hurun, and started Hurun in 2012. So that's the brief of how we started.
But from what I understand, you don many hats. It's not just Hurun India. You're an angel investor. You have your own fund. So if I were to ask about your fund, how did that start, and now what's the fund size we're looking at?
It's a very small fund, but we see we one of the reasons why we started the fund is a backstory to it, in the sense that about 8 to 9 years back, we and a group of our friends, we really wanted to see how we can contribute to India's startup ecosystem. So as I was telling you earlier, investing in startup, unlike investing in stocks, it's very different. Stock markets, when you invest, is mainly for monetary returns, right? But startups is more of an emotion. Trying to add value. You're trying to add value to the economy and so on. So we were a group of friends who really wanted to add value to the economy through startups as a medium, right? That's how we started about 7 years back, and we've that angel community has grown to about 150 members, and we had invested about 7.5 to 8 million US in 25 startups and secured some 4 to 5 exits. So that's how the journey has been. And when this funding winter happened, we thought this could be the right time to launch a fund and invest in startups, right? And because we could get companies at good valuation, we would have much better control and due diligence processes and all that stuff. And we also thought it could be a good opportunity to bring in Hurun network in terms of helping the startup scale up, either through customer acquisition or through future rounds and so on. So with that in mind, we launched a fund in January. It's a small fund. It's a 32 crores fund. But we know we don't. Our approach is to invest in 15 companies, average ticket size of 150 to 250,000 US. So it's not a spray and pray. We'll spend a lot of time on analyzing deals. To invest in about 4 companies after looking at 400 companies, right? So that's like 1% is the conversion ratio. So that's been the journey. So hopefully, with this track record, we want to possibly go, raise bigger funds.
Onwards and upwards. But very interesting thing that you mentioned, that you started at a time when the startups are struggling for funds. What we're going through is a very long funding winter. Do you see it ending anytime soon, or is it going to be like Game of Thrones, never-ending winter?
No, it will definitely end. Where is it not going to end? It's a very high interest regime, right? And that will have an impact on liquidity in the market. It's the demand and supply. If liquidity is available, of course, funding is available. If it's not available, of course, it's not available. Uh, and I was telling in my panel earlier that the India story, you cannot look at it as a 1 year, 2 year kind of thing. It's a 10 year, decade, or even a story of century, right? And when you put things in perspective, in the next 10 years, I think it's going to be one of the most fantastic time for startups and innovation, right? From Hurun India Rich List perspective, when we put out the list in 2012, there were absolutely no startup founders in the list. Now there are at least 100 founders who are startup founders. There are 13 individuals in the Hurun Rich List who were born after 1990s, right? So it's quite exciting, and the next 10 is going to be even more exciting. And from our perspective, we thought it's a perfect time to launch a fund. I mean, we get a much better valuation, and we get to have much better time in terms of contributing and discussing with the founders and taking a lot more time to decide and so on. So it's a perfect time to invest. So anybody who's considering not to invest because of funding winter, please, this could be the right time to invest.
Well, recently we did an issue in the Business Today magazine, a special issue on artificial intelligence in its current form, as it's available today in terms of Chat GPT and other generative AI tools that we're seeing. Would you say, is it a friend or a foe?
See, AI is like electricity, right? So I think one important point that I want to convey here is any company, startups or traditional business, any company who does not get AI implemented in their business, they're going to lose out for sure. So it has to be done, implemented for sure. And of course, there could be it'll have an impact on certain kind of jobs, because of which I know government might want to think about regulating it to an extent, but then I don't know how far it can be regulated. But I think it is you'll see a lot more use cases, a lot more companies. Even in our portfolio, a lot of them are having AI component in it, trying to adapt and so on. So it is a time for both startups and traditional business to look at AI and adapt it, to it as happy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. It was lovely
Thank
talking
you.
to you. Thank you.